You know what old Jack Burton always says at a time like this?
Come on, then! I'll bite your legs off!
I can take it.
Great power comes great responsibility. We have a hope. Get to the chopper! And they the flesh wound. I am the father.
Welcome back to SludgeCast. Again, we thank you guys so much for continuing to stick with us, listen to us. We got a lot of good feedback from several listeners on last week's episode. Everyone said they loved it. We definitely want to say we had an absolute blast doing that episode.
Best ever. Yeah,
oh, yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
So much fun. So every episode, I think, is definitely, which Sludge here.
Tyler, Matt.
So we've been having a lot of fun doing this, and every episode so far has just gotten more fun and more fun and more fun. So we just hope that continues. We definitely have a lot of cool things in store for you in the future, including some special guests, maybe a special video cast in the future. We're working on some cool, fun things. So, but of course, we're here for episode 4. Obviously, on this episode, we will continue the Stump the Sludge. It's going to be continuous every episode now, and we'll also, continue the Q&A with Matt at the end. But this episode, we've got 2 pretty cool things that we want to talk about. The first is actually a kickoff of a series that we want to continue and thought it'd be really cool that we're calling the Console Wars. Not something new, not something you haven't heard before. Every generation has had competing video game consoles that's just battled it out, and we thought it would be awesome to go from the beginning and go generation by generation and do this as a continuous series. So tonight we're going to kick that off, Console Wars being the first major systems to come home to us as consumers, being the Atari 2600 versus the Intellivision, who is its only major competitor. There was a couple other ones at the time. We may mention it when we get into that, but we're going to kick Console Wars off with that. Of course, next month we'll continue Console Wars and go into the Nintendo versus the Sega Master System. The next topic we'll talk about this evening, of course, is going to be, as you saw in the promo, the silent film era. We're very big movie fans here. We love it, and it all started back at the dawn of the 20th century.
Yeah, I hope we keep listeners because we're not going to say a word.
That would be
It's just going to be a quiet
that would be
podcast.
so awesome. It's like, all right, now the silent film era, and then just 20 minutes of silence. People would be like, I wonder how many people would just listen and go, are they going to talk yet? We'd have one guy at least who'd be like 20 minutes in of silence going, they're going to talk at some point.
Just know it.
So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Something new that we're going to start is there's going to be, of course, Tyler's got the Stump the Sludge section. Matt's got his Q&A corner. Something that I'd like to do and keep going for you guys. Of course, we want to always make this interesting. Is we're going to alternate on episodes at the beginning. I'm going to give one episode a news reel of things that are happening. If you guys keep up with the Facebook page, you'll see that we will share sometimes news, things that's coming out in relations to superhero movies, Star Wars, video games. We try to share that with you guys because it's something we love, and we want to make sure that you're sharing that with us. So we're going to be doing a SludgeCast News Reel, and then in the other episodes, we'll be doing a SludgeCast Jukebox. We got a lot of good compliments when Sarge from the Protest was on. People really enjoyed us playing their single. So that's something we thought would be pretty cool. What is in the jukebox for the SludgeCast members? So we'll be rotating songs that we all are listening to for you guys to hear. So tonight, we will start this off with the news reel. And we've got a couple interesting things here that I thought were important enough or fun enough to talk about. And of course, big nerds, we like Star Wars and we like Star Trek. Now, there's a lot of things Star Trek going on with Quentin Tarantino doing the next Star Trek film. There's been talks about Chris Hemsworth and Chris Pine not being in the next film. That's still kind of up in there. It's all finances is what they're working on. But the big Star Trek news that I thought was really cool to talk about, I've not seen Star Trek Discovery yet. I really do want to watch that. But I haven't been able to catch any of season 1. It is on, I think, Netflix now. So I'm going to try and watch that. But they just announced for season 2 that Spock will be on Star Trek Discovery in his young years.
That's cool.
Which will be pretty awesome. Even cooler is Ethan Peck is who's playing Spock. Does either of you guys know who that is?
Nope.
Oh, Ethan Peck is the grandson of the great actor Gregory Peck. To Kill a Mockingbird. So
Okay.
which is I thought it was pretty cool. So Roman Holiday is another one. I mean,
Yeah.
Gregory Peck he's awesome. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. We got I don't know that Ethan's done anything, but if this is his first big thing, I think his grandfather would be pretty proud of, hey, Ethan, you're Spock. I don't know how he'll beat Zachary Quinto because I don't know. I mean, Leonard Nimoy is Spock, but Zachary Quinto's Spock I thought was just superb. I mean, I loved Spock by Leonard Nimoy, but it was very much a one type of Spock. I think Quinto really expanded the character, so
Yeah, it's good.
he was awesome. So that's pretty cool. Ethan Peck is going to be Spock in the next season of Star Trek Discovery. There's been a lot of rumors out there because obviously James Bond, we just got the last film with Daniel Craig. Where are they going to continue from here? Tons of rumors about them saying Idris Elba will take on the role of James Bond. And there's been some conflict of not to get stereotypical, because there are characters you can have a white male character, change it up and have a black male character play it, and it'll still be great. But it's been the big thing for Bond fans is, can we do this? Can Idris, do this? Is he going to? What's going to happen? And Idris came out on Twitter and finally stated and put this thing to rest. Don't believe the hype, is what he said. So I thought it would have been cool. I would have loved to have seen Idris as James Bond because he's awesome. Like, there's that scene in Pacific Rim, the first one, when Charlie Hunnam is coming after him when he won't let Mako pilot because the Gypsy Danger goes crazy at first, and he meets him at that elevator and he's trying to talk to him, and Idris Elba's character Pentecost is just ignoring him, telling him pretty much no, and then he touches his shoulder, and when he turns around and he's like, 1, don't ever touch me again. Mm-hmm. 2, don't ever touch me again. I mean, when his look and delivery, I was just like, I would never touch him. Like, the dude had me sold sitting there watching it. So he was great in Ghost Rider Spirits of Vengeance. I've not seen anything Idris has done that he's just not phenomenal. Heimdall in the Thor films and Avengers, that was the one character who died that's not coming back that I'm bummed about because I loved Heimdall.
Moment of silence right there, man.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Kind of bummed because I thought it was a really cool idea having him be James Bond, but oh well. I think it'd been cool.
I think that would have been awesome.
I think it would have been great. Like, because that'd been fresh because to me, it's kind of just been a repeat for Bond for so long. Okay, we're just going to get a new actor and start trying to go, and it just keeps getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Yeah. And you had, Brosnan took over with 3-4 movies, and then Craig 3 movies, and now we're doing it again. Let's try something very unique. So I think that'd been cool because I think James Bond's a great character. I've loved.
Yeah,
Sean Connery's the best James Bond, in my opinion, though.
Well, and I know a lot of people have fussed about like the whole getting new actors for James Bond all the time, but like I heard a fan theory that they actually think that James Bond is, of course, just a name that they use for that particular agent in that setting. Like, it is different guys. It's not always supposed to be the same Bond, so they could totally throw in if they wanted to go off that fan theory. Throw Idris Elba in there. I mean, that would work perfectly. Like, it's not based on the specific person. That's just who his code name is.
Yeah, it's the entity of that role. That's cool.
I know, right?
That'd be really cool. So some other things, I want to kind of get those two things out of the way real quick because there's some really big news that I think is very important dealing with Sony's Marvel Universe. They are really starting to kick this thing off now with Venom. I mean, obviously, I cannot wait. We're just a couple months away from. There's nothing better in that new trailer than the turd in the wind line. Even my wife now will see the trailer and will quote that and just laugh. It's going to be so good. But they had stated prior to Venom they were going to do a Silver and Black film with Silver Sable and Black Cat, which I thought would have been great. 2, anti-hero female characters would have been really cool to spin off from Spider-Man. But then they canceled it, which kind of, bummed me out because I thought it'd been really, really cool. So then they ended up doing Venom, and then of course now they've announced Morbius, which has casted Jared Leto as the role. That's just going to be great. I love the character Morbius. Morbius, for those who don't know, first appeared in Amazing Spider-Man, then of course got his own series. He isn't like Dracula. He's not been there forever because of some deal he made with the devil. He was trying to find a cure for a disease and accidentally turned himself into a vampire. And because he's a doctor, and what he does is obviously he has to have blood sustain him. He turns into this anti-hero type character and feeds off of criminals. Is pretty much what Morbius does. So I think that's going to be a really cool comic book movie. I'm stoked about it. So, and then they recently announced that Richard Wenk, who wrote the script, or who did Equalizer 2, is that just recently came out, is doing a script for Kraven the Hunter, the Russian hunter. So I think it's going to be really, really cool. I don't know how we can really have a Kraven movie without Spider-Man. I mean, all these are Spider-Man characters, but I mean, that's what Kraven always did. Spider-Man was his ultimate trophy, so he always had to hunt him down. So, I mean, there's other things he's hunted, So, I mean, I'm sure they're going to make a great movie, but that one's going to be kind of weird for me to not have Spider-Man in, because that's what Kraven did. I could see Morbius without a Spider-Man because there's so much in his canon to make a good film. So in stating that, after they announced the Kraven movie, they have finally come out and stated that instead of canceling Silver and Black, they're not going to make two separate movies. They feel that Black Cat and Silver Sable have enough in their canon and are good enough characters to do their own solo films. So now that Venom is kicking this off, we now have Morbius coming, Kraven coming, Silver Sable coming, Black Cat coming, and then they're even in the talks of, they've mentioned Silk and Nightwatch. I would love to see Nightwatch. That would be awesome. So Sony's moving big time with this Marvel Universe. I'd like to see where they go with this. Are they going to build to a Sinister Six film, or are all these characters going to come together in an Avengers type movie? I mean, what do you guys think they'll be doing?
I have no idea.
Matt's just, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing either, because, and I'm going to rant on this for just a second, because it has been on the news a bit. The Sony, brainchilds up top are trying to take Venom down from an R to a PG-13 film. And Matt, me and you talked about this the other day. I can't, man, that's not one I can get behind. I don't want it to be rated R because I don't want a lot of language, but to truly do a Venom film, as dark as that character is, they could get away with pushing every absolute boundary for a PG-13 film, and it could be good. The problem for me that comes into it, because the whole reason they want to do this is they want to be able to incorporate other characters crossing over, Spider-Man coming into the fold, and Venom. They can't bring Spider-Man into an R-rated film. That's just that you can't, because of the fanfare and who's going to see a Spider-Man movie. So I understand where they're coming from, and the Venom movie, the fans, the ones who are really pushed for this and wanted to see this, they want an R-rated film because they know with an R-rated film, and it could be a light R, is going to do justice to the character for the type of character he is, or an extreme PG-13. The problem for me lies in the sequel. We know Carnage is in the sequel. You can't do a film with Carnage at PG-13. There's just no way without ruining it. And I think it's solely because Cletus Cassidy is in jail because he's a serial killer. He's in prison because of that. How do you portray a serial killer who gets the symbiote from Venom, a piece of the symbiote, and becomes the greatest Spider-Man villain ever? I mean, at least the baddest in a PG-13 film. I just don't see how they do that. That's my concern. So I don't know.
Yeah, it is going to be tough to do. For me, I don't really know. I mean, I'd like to see them tone it down if they can. Just because again, I'm not about the language and things like that. I'm really kind of trying to limit what I watch on those.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you there.
But I kind of agree for his character. Unless they want to have a Spider-Man 3 all over again,
that's my fear.
They really need to tone it up.
For those who can't see, Matt is losing it over here because
we tease him all the time about
4
Spider-Man
episodes
3.
now, Matt. 4.
So, yeah, we have a group text between the three of us, and it comes up like at least once or twice a week.
Yeah, at least.
It's the worst. In Sludge's book, it's the worst superhero movie ever.
Well, yeah, I was sitting on the couch the other day, and I was trying to find something to watch, and I just scrolled to the movies, and I'm like, oh, look, Spider-Man 3, yes. And I turned it on.
And then sent us all a picture of him watching it. I felt so bad. But, I mean, they're going to do what they feel is going to be best. For Venom alone, pushing... Because, I mean, like, the Meg was great.
Yeah.
And there was hardly any real blood and guts with humans versus... I mean, there was tons of marine animals that you saw a lot of blood, whales and things. So I think that they can push the boundaries of PG-13 and the Venom movie will still be good. I'll still be afraid until I see it that we're going to experience Topher Grace's Venom again. I don't need no boy band Venom, please, please.
As long as he doesn't
so
have frosted
funny.
tips, I think we'll be making an improvement.
They're going to do it. No, they're not. Like last minute edit in the CGI, they're going to put little tips in. No,
blondes.
No, we're not doing it. So,
That's
but I just don't know how they're going to the sequel. But I mean, so they're pushing big time with this Sony's Marvel universe. I think it's gonna be really cool, getting all these side characters that normally wouldn't get a movie. You got big ones, obviously, like Venom's big enough, but I mean, Nightwatch, Kraven, these. I think it's really, really cool, and I'm excited to see what they do with it. So, on to another movie article I want to talk about as far as news. If those who don't know, Disney has they're finishing it up. They have bought Fox. Fox is now under their control. For me, as a fan of some things, especially the Predator and the Alien film franchise and Die Hard, they have announced that officially that they plan to dramatically scale back production and downsize budgets for all of Fox's film properties which do not fit their family-friendly, franchise-focused formula, which is fine if they want to focus on those, because I'm all for the Disney films and the family films. I mean, that's pretty much, I watch a lot of those now. The superhero films, all for it. They're pushing it. They're going to push back. We're going to get more Planet of the Apes films. It's great. But there's so many Fox properties, again, The Predator, Alien, Die Hard, all these others. That's pretty much them saying, sorry, boys, no more. So that kind of bums me out. I don't know that they should do that. I think it's a bad move.
I mean, I don't really know. As far as like the Die Hards, and I'll be honest, I haven't seen those. Just based on some of the things I've heard about, it's one of those ones I stayed away from a little bit.
I haven't watched them in a while, but
I am a huge Disney fan. I've seen pretty much every movie that they've ever put out almost. So I don't know. I mean, overall, do I think it's a smart business idea? Probably not. They're probably going to lose a lot of people over those movies specifically. But I mean, I guess at the same time, I can kind of understand where they're wanting to kind of keep their focus, I guess.
I just don't understand why.
I don't get it.
I don't know why you need to pay $71.3 billion.
Oh. Okay. That's what you understand. That's a lot of money.
I mean, I understand, but why do they need Fox? Why? I don't. I mean, they already own Star Wars. I mean, Marvel. I mean, why?
My first thought when they were going to buy Fox was the other properties. I mean, top of the three that we talked about, I mean, you've also got Lethal Weapon, which has been, 4 severely successful films, severely successful TV series. You've got Fox owns Magnum P.I., Fox owns Knight Rider, Fox owns a lot of TV series that are out there. I mean, you've got all these properties which are under Fox. I mean, you look at Bill and Ted. They're going to do another Bill and Ted movie. That's Fox, so there's tons of great properties. So for me as a business, thinking I want to purchase Fox because I want these, so that I can make money off of these because there's a draw for them. And what other purpose would there be? Yeah, to buy or spend that kind of money. But now they're coming out and saying, well, we bought it, but we're going to let all this stuff go. That makes no sense to me why you're going to drop $73 billion other than monopolizing the market. But that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the money part, but it just, I mean, they already have ESPN, ABC. If they wanted something television, they've already got the avenue for that.
Yep.
What's the Fox network?
Well, they got FX.
Yeah, I know.
But see, when I look at that too, when it comes to Disney, is if you've got ABC, you've got ESPN, what do you not have? Now, Fox will retain a few small properties, but I know like FX has been bought. That's more geared to the older crowd. So, okay, what are you going to give us? Well, we're not going to focus on any of that stuff. Well, then what's going to happen?
Right.
I don't know. I'm interested to see what they do with it. Now, as far as the, a Disney movie fan, Star Wars fan, Marvel fan, I'm stoked. They're just going to continue with that stuff.
Yeah.
And consider the fact that they're buying Fox, now they've got rights to Fantastic Four, the X-Men, X-Force and all them. So they're going to just grow that universe. So I'm all for that. All for that.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting. Disney, I hope you know what you're doing. They know what they're doing. I mean, they've been doing it forever.
They've been doing it for a while, so apparently they're doing something right.
I mean, it's hard not to look and think they're fixing to monopolize the whole industry. You know what I mean?
really seems like
It
that.
does.
Yeah.
They really are. I mean, you think like they own this stuff. They're not going to put it on Netflix when they get their streaming service started.
No.
I mean,
Why?
they're going to put Netflix out. Well, I don't think they will, but because Netflix has really good shows.
I think Netflix can sustain themselves on their own properties at this point.
At now, yeah.
Yeah.
But someone like Hulu, there's a lot of Fox content on Hulu, and I have Hulu at this moment, and so there's a lot of Fox stuff on there, and it'll probably be gone.
Yeah.
Would be my guess. You
And
know?
it'll throw a lot of competitors out. I mean, I could see Hulu going away.
Yeah.
I couldn't see Netflix because I think Netflix has its own niche.
Yeah.
And especially with their original stuff that they've got going on now, all across the board, I don't see them falling. I mean, at all.
I agree. Where Netflix definitely came out with their own and kind of started their own thing. Apart from, you take the movies and Disney and all that kind of stuff away, they still have something going for them. They still have the movies and the originals that they're coming out with.
But Disney may do some property licenses. Who knows?
They may.
I mean, because they do that with Netflix with the Marvel stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we'll see. I don't know. It'll be interesting. So Disney, please do us right. Don't monopolize the market and be terrible. So, all right. Well, so that's all the news I got for you. There's a lot of cool stuff. And, of course, we'll continue to put news up on the Facebook page. Really excited about what Sony's doing with their Marvel Universe. And it's going to be interesting to see what Disney does. Disney, please don't, for me, Sludge, I do not want you to take away certain properties that it looks like you're going to. But, I understand the realism of how the business works. So, those rights do disappear at certain times. So it may be 10 years from now, but they'll be back. So, all right, on to topic one. The big meat of this is the console wars. So we thought it'd be really, really fun to go system to system. Each generation had multiple consoles or handhelds, but there was always two big boxers in the ring when it comes to video game consoles. And we thought it'd be really cool just to kind of go through each generations of systems because we were all big video game fanatics. We love these systems. We know you guys love them, and we'd love to talk about them. So I'd originally thought about just start with Nintendo, but you got to go from where it began, And prior to Atari and Intellivision, there was some systems out there. I mean, you had games on that Radio Shack that computer, I can't remember what it's called, had a couple really bad games. But you had, the Fairchild Channel F actually came out prior to the Atari, and it was actually the first home console system that put games on a ROM cartridge. Now, for those who don't know, ROM cartridges is pretty much, well, you know what they are, Nintendo games and Super Nintendo and 64, the ROM, the prior to CD. And it was the first cartridge system that allowed you to put the game on there, store data on it, and is really the heart of what the game was, and it ran off of whatever system it was. So the Fairchild Channel F really started that with an 8K cartridge, a ROM cartridge, but then Atari really built on it. The Fairchild did okay, but the Atari, when it hit, just took off. So that's what we're going to get into, Atari versus Intellivision. Before we break these down, we talked about, this older system. Pretty much the only experience we had, the three of us, was the Atari, right?
Yeah.
I'm amazed too. I was just looking up some facts earlier, and the Atari was $199.
Yep.
Introductory price, which in 2017 that would have been $803.65.
Which is crazy.
No wonder we did not have one in my house.
Yeah. Well, and the Intellivision was $100 more
Oh yeah.
when it came out, which is just, it's
So
nuts.
it was $1,500 in today's
I
market.
understand it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
they
$299,
hit the market, and obviously, so we had to do a lot of research for the Intellivision. Now, I didn't play the Intellivision. I did play the ColecoVision, which, as we get into here in a little bit, pretty much is the Intellivision, just by a different company.
I mean, it doesn't. It doesn't. I don't even know how you would play it. It looks like you got a phone as a controller.
Yeah, just a little wheel, the little dial pad,
Numbers.
Like we were talking about it earlier too. Is if anybody's seen the controller for the, and I don't know how it succeeded, just because of the controller.
I know.
I just don't get it. I mean, Atari had it when it came to the controller. I mean, you had the joystick that came with it.
It's like playing an arcade game.
Yeah, and one button, which was great. And then they came with the additional wheel button that you can get. What else do you need?
I know it.
I mean,
It was super simple and just it made your games fun without having to like overcomplicate it.
Oh, yeah.
Which the Intellivision I feel like did the exact opposite. Like let's make this
as difficult as
difficult,
possible.
and when you look at it, you're confused just by looking at the
Well, I mean,
remote
you
control.
have to think being back then. So the Atari comes out in 1977. The Intellivision officially drops in 1980. So this is the era, the beginning of home personal computers. People watching Superman 3 going, oh man, they're going to take over the world, But it's that time frame. This stuff, it was very intimidating. If you look at that, it's like, how does this work? What do we, this is completely new technology. So Atari comes out, it's got the little controller, little joystick, one button. Cool, mom and dad can play, we got this. Then Intellivision's controller comes out, and it's like, is there a keypad? Do I have to put a code in to... It was, I don't know.
It's weird.
But so we'll get into it here. So when it comes to Atari, of course, Atari brought a lot of classics that were in the arcade at the time. Pong, was out for the Atari. They licensed Space Invaders, Missile Command, Centipede, had a lot of really big titles, and they brought it to home use. It was the very first major, while the Fairchild came out and was selling okay, was selling good, the Atari is what really made it known that the video game market is something new, something here, something that's going to be big. And when they brought the system out, I mean, it's an 8-bit processing system, which is funny when you think about it because the Nintendo is an 8-bit as well. But, you break into the megahertz of things, you can see why there's a major difference. But at the core, it's an 8-bit system. I mean, we're talking very little memory, but a lot back then, but very little.
128 bytes.
120 bytes. Whew. Not kilobytes, not gigs. I just ordered a computer from a buddy of mine, and it's got 12 gigs of RAM in it. Okay, a laptop with 12 gigs.
Yeah.
You're talking 128 bytes. There's 1,024 bytes in a kilobyte, 1,024 kilobytes in a megabyte, 1,024 megabytes in a gigabyte, and I've got 12 gigs of RAM.
Yeah.
I don't know how many billions of bytes that is, but so I mean, it was phenomenal, top of the line. So they made it very easy. It was they had the switches at the top, which actually, when the Atari first came out, it actually was not called the Atari 2600. It was actually the Atari VCS, which is the video computer system. Because when the Fairchild was out by the Channel F by Fairchild was the Fairchild Video Entertainment System. So they really kind of rode on the coattails when they released it. It's like, okay, the only really big competitor we will have right now, or any competitor, is Fairchild with VES. Let's release this as the VCS. They actually didn't change it in the name. They didn't change it to the Atari 2600 until they released the 5200. And then the reason why they call it the 2600 is just because of, I think the serial name on the product was CX260, whatever. It was 2600 was on there. That's when it became known and popularized as the Atari 2600. And the name stuck, and it's just been the same ever since then. So when it first came out, it was huge. Ted Dabney and Nolan Bushnell Bushnell had created a company with a bunch of programmers at the time called Syzygy. And their goal was to create a console that they had dubbed Stella after somebody's bike or, I don't know, motorcycle, bike, bicycle, something. But it was called Stella. And the Fairchild was out, and they were really wanting to get into the video game market. But they lacked the funding to get Stella into production. So Nolan had approached Warner Communications and got them to buy Atari, because they ended up taking Syzygy public, wanted to get the incorporated license, found out another company actually owned the name Syzygy, so they went with Atari. Atari, they'd gotten from a Japanese game called Go, I think. It was some game with rocks or something, and something happens and you yell Atari. And Atari means to be engulfed or entrapped with. So they thought it was a really cool name for this big, groundbreaking video game system to really engulf and trap somebody. So they went to Warner. Warner bought it. As long as they promised to get the system out quickly, and they did. They quickly started producing the Ataris. When the Atari hit, I think it had like 19 cartridges, maybe. It came out initially when it was released. It came out with I know it did end up coming out with Pac-Man, but I think it was Pong maybe. It came with a cartridge, a game for you to play, which was cool and kind of really started that whole fad of you buy a game. Like, Nintendo was big on that. When you bought the Super Nintendo, you could buy the special version with Super Mario World, and everyone's done that from then on out. So thank you, Atari, for that, because you started that. But so they came out in 1977, and they really hit it big. They started selling all these games. They got licensed to a lot of the arcade games that were out. Again, we talked about Pong and Missile Command and all these things. And Atari just boomed, skyrocketed. Now, this first 3 years, though, was really a rough testing for them. They went through a lot of issues. When they first started making these things out in California, they called them the Heavy Sixers, if I'm not mistaken, is what they called the systems originally, because the bottom plastic of the wood was a heavy plastic that they had used, so it made the systems kind of heavy, and they had the 6 toggle switches across the top to adjust game difficulty, the amount of players, very old school, so you got to use toggle switches for settings. So they call those the Heavy Sixers. They sold like 250, maybe to 500,000 units the first year. They ended up starting to produce them in Hong Kong because they were learned quickly, we can make this system a lot cheaper as far as production-wise, and then sell it for the same amount of money. Came out for $199, started making it in Hong Kong. It was a lighter plastic. They moved 2 of the toggles to the back, then eventually got rid of those and just had the 4 toggles up front. Toggle switches, the beginning of it, it's like $40 for them to make one, and then they end up selling for around $175. So they were able to drop the price. 10 million units sold within no time. So it was huge. Everybody had them. And so and then they had all their programmers making all kinds of new and great games for it that people hadn't seen yet. They were starting to realize what their system was capable of, because when the game Adventure came out, Adventure was the first kind of role-playing game or adventure game. You were a little dot, and you had to go through and find a key to get into each door through these dungeons, and it was the first game that took you into more realms. It wasn't just on your screen. It made it bigger than what was on the screen, internally as the game. So games like Avenger just shot it off big time. But the problem that they ran into in the first 3 years as well was their programmers weren't getting any credited for these games, nor were they getting royalty rights. And so 3 programmers from Atari left and created the very first third-party software video game company, and that was Activision. Activision has been around since the beginning, and since they were Atari programmers, they now own Activision, they started making third-party Atari games. Atari tried to sue them for this in court, didn't work, and the market just continued to boom, because now you've got Atari making games and third-party companies like Activision making all kinds of games. They're getting licenses for Pac-Man, bringing it over. Games like Demon Attack and all these other games that were coming out, it was huge. It boomed the market. And then 1980, its first big competitor came with the Intellivision. When the Intellivision dropped in 1980, it was a honestly superior system. Had a slightly faster processor, had a much better graphics chip that could run a much bigger resolution, and could actually run higher frame rates per second. And it had better sound. The Atari, it was just beep, boop, boop. We remember, it's very, very MIDI. Well, with the Intellivision, when you play golf on Atari 2600, not only the graphics worse than the Intellivision, but it's beep, boop, 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 as the ball's flying. On the Intellivision, you could hear them swing the golf. They had like the effect to sound more like a golf club, just a swinging, so that the sound effects was much better. And they knew they had a better system, so they advertised it heavily. Almost every advertisement when it came out in 1980 was, I can't remember the guy's name. There's one guy they used. He was like a gamesman and novelist. And it was always like next to 2 TVs, and one TV had the same game, or each commercial might be a different game, but the Atari version and the Intellivision version, and the Intellivision looked and sounded superior to the Atari.
George Plimpton.
Okay, that's his name. So I couldn't
use that for Stump the Sludge.
Oh, see,
I'm just kidding.
I just read that.
Did you? Okay. So yeah. So he was on like every commercial. The advertising, I can't remember what the number was, but Intellivision's advertising campaign was in the millions for this system, much higher than Atari's was. And because they had a better system. The problem that came in with Intellivision, and of course none of us played it, so I've had to do a lot of research on the system, was very similar to what Sega ran into with the Saturn and the Dreamcast. Really shooting too far for the stars and making promises you can't keep. They brought this, it was a much more expensive console to make. So when it came out, it was $299. Why spend $299 when I can get an Atari for $175? That was the thought process. Their first year, they didn't even sell 1 million units, and Atari selling 10 million. But eventually it did catch on. This is a much better system. So people started buying into it. And they started, selling millions of units, and then they were starting to put serious heat on Atari with their games and the systems. But again, this is where I think the fall of Intellivision happened is they promised too much. They said, okay, we're going to have a keyboard add-on come out, and we're going to have an add-on come out to where you can play Atari games. You can do this and this and this. And they weren't delivering on it at the time. And they eventually, if the FCC came out and said, hey, you promised the public this, and you didn't do it, especially the keyboard. The electronic keyboard is supposed to be for it. And so they tried to make one. And when they made one, it did not do good. It bombed big time.
Oh, yeah. Have you seen a picture of it?
I've not even seen a picture of this thing. Is that the add-on? That is horrible.
You take the entire console and put it looks like a humongous typewriter. It looks like a tape deck on the left-hand side.
Well, yeah, because you were supposed to be able to put tapes in there and store data to it.
Yeah, and you put the whole console into I guess the keyboard.
Wow.
Good grief.
That is...
It's on Wikipedia.
And that thing cost more... When they finally brought it out, the electronic keyboard for it cost more than the console did.
I bet so.
Oh yeah, because it was supposed to add a lot. You were able to read and write programs.
It's like twice the size.
It's huge looking. It is twice the size.
Oh, it's over twice the size.
They were
definitely over.
They were really big on getting kids into programming codes, because you had BASIC and things that were coming out. So that was one of the key things to the keyboard is you could write to tape and these ROM cartridges and do it all from there. A computer system like they planned it, because television means intelligent television. So they had all these goals. Well, this thing dropped. They didn't even sell like 1,000 of these maybe. They were like $360, $399, something like that. It was astronomical at the time for something that did not work good. And they recalled it. And to the point where it was so bad because they were being fined like $10,000 a day or something like that by the FCC to get it out. They rushed to get it out. It flopped big time. They then have to recall them, refund the people who bought them their money back, and then give them money or properties from Mattel. Everybody got $1,000 in Mattel games or toys or whatever, and people who didn't want to get rid of it could keep it, had to sign a waiver, and then they still got it $1,000. They lost so much money.
It cost $600.
$600. That was off by
just for the attachment.
Just for the keyboard attachment.
Yeah. Wow. Let's see. In the fall of 1981, design changes were finally implemented, and the keyboard component was released at $600. Now, this was only in Seattle and New Orleans.
Yes, that's right. I remember there's only 2 places they did that. I remember reading that.
And then when things didn't work out, they refunded $550 per component.
Well, it was $550
plus you got $60 for a cartridge and $30 for each cassette.
Right,
software.
to make sure that they got at least their money back for that. But then the people who kept it, again, they like $1,000 they were given to everybody who had this. And so they started, that was when they started to tank.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. So on top of this problem that they have, another problem Intellivision has is third-party software. When they first hit the market, 1980 shot out, the Intellivision came out, it was huge, promised all these things. Mattel was like, we've got to hire everybody under the sun. They hired so many people, so many programmers, that they had to get an entirely other building to put them in because they ran out of space in their main offices. And so they were hiring left and right, and they wouldn't release the names of the programmers. They were called the Blue Sky Angels is what they dubbed them, had their own cool little emblem. It was pretty sweet, to keep Atari and everybody else from finding out, because they didn't, these Intellivision games that were solely Intellivision, they didn't want getting those out. Of course, they weren't getting royalties. The same problem that Atari had previously, they were doing the same thing to their employees. So the original core group of the Blue Sky Angels, they all ended up leaving. Some went to Activision, some went to started Emoji Games and all these other companies, and we're making third-party software. And Mattel was like, oh no, how are we going to stop this? Because, now they realized, oh, we've made the same mistake Atari did, but what do we do? So they ended up changing the exec software on the console, which the console came with 4K of storage just for the executive software. That kind of really was the brain and did everything software-wise for the Intellivision. They updated that to prevent third-party games from being made. Now, of course, they're doing this to stop the people who wrote it in the first place from making games for the system. That makes no sense to me. Yeah. It was not long at all, and they were making third-party games. They bypassed that, and then boom, all these other great games come out. One of them was Demon Attack, was made under Emoji, I think, or another company, and it was one of the best-selling games for Intellivision. So was Intellivision answered by doing that? Oh, well, let's release another one, because they ended up releasing Intellivision 2, which was just a smaller, cheaper version. They did the same thing Atari did. Again, Atari already figured it out. Want to send it to Hong Kong, make it cheaper, make more money. Intellivision was going in Mattel was going in the hole at this point with what was going on.
Go back to toys.
So, what's that?
I say go back to making toys.
Yeah, that's eventually what they did. So they, make the cheaper Intellivision 2, but they ended up coming out with I can't remember if it's the Aquarius. There were several models of the Intellivision that ended up coming out because other people would buy into it. But one of them had a component to where you can play Atari games. How Atari did not win a lawsuit on that is beyond me, because you could have an Atari, get this new version of the Intellivision. Oh, well, I'm just going to sell my Atari system because I'm going to keep the games, keep the Atari cartridges, and play them on this Intellivision. That blew my mind how there wasn't a lawsuit on that when I was reading about this. So,
can you imagine if PlayStation did that to Microsoft nowadays?
Oh
my gosh, that would be insane.
CNN, Fox News,
yeah,
View,
I mean that'd be
Wars.
everywhere. So yeah, how in the world they got away with that?
Yeah, because I couldn't find anything. When researching this, I could find nothing about Atari coming back on them on it. Atari probably knew. They probably realized what was going on. I was like, they're going to be gone soon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's just not a worry, I guess.
Probably not for them.
They weren't
because, Atari was making a cheaper system that more people bought. The graphics weren't as good, but the games were phenomenal. I mean, they still had the great games. And the Intellivision was porting games. So they had Donkey Kong Jr. and they had, those games. But if you, and you guys listening, if you can go look at the Intellivision pictures of Donkey Kong Jr., totally different game. I mean, it's the same game, but totally Jumpman is purple, and Donkey Kong Jr. doesn't even look like Donkey Kong Jr. It's pretty bad, so that they had a lot of third-party games they were bringing in, but instead of getting the actual third-party licenses like Atari did and bringing them directly over and programming like the arcade versions, they were doing rip-offs, pretty much is what they were doing. And it just... People were like, oh, well,
It does like any ripoff.
I could pay less money for the actual arcade version, instead more money for the, cheap knockoff. So they ended up, it ended up ultimately tanking Intellivision. They ended up losing, of course, now there was a major market crash in 1983 when it comes to video games. This is heavily, whether it's a fact or not, heavily focused and stated that it was because of E.T. on Atari. And I want to say one of the Pac-Man games. So the major market crash for them. People would just, a lot of things too. I mean, you also got the Radio Shack personal computers out at the time in 83. The Apple II has come out. So now you've got these computers that can do stuff, and they can come with games, and you can buy games on them for them. What do I want this for? I don't spend this much money on the Intellivision. I can do something for the same price or less and do more. So Mattel lost like $280 million in 1983. Atari lost like $500 million the same year. Atari was able to keep things rolling and even released another system, the 5200, then it became the Atari 2600. They were, so they were able to keep things going, but Intellivision was not. They had already lost so much because of the keyboard component, because of just over-hiring, the cost of the system and not moving it to cheaper production. They were just so heavily in debt. They eventually, I want to say in maybe the next year, I think like 84, they sold the entire library for Intellivision to one of the original Blue Sky Angels. And they bought everything and started making it to a straight to, like home order back then. You had those things even like on comic books. You want to order a T-shirt, you did direct toll-free orders to the company. They did that, so it was much smaller, but he kept it alive. Then eventually, 1989, 1990 rolls around, and it's just Intellivision's done for. It's done. Atari, they didn't even discontinue the Atari till 1992, I think. Yeah, 1992. Yeah. So the Atari kept going, but Intellivision, 1990, it was over. Well, the original Blue Sky Angels, a core group of them, bought Intellivision and have kept it alive since then. So now you've got the Intellivision remixes for PlayStation consoles, and of course, something we didn't mention was the ColecoVision was a big competitor when it came out in 83, I think. 82. 82. And it pretty much was, the controller was the same. It's the same system, pretty much, but it was owned by Coleco. Same internal design, same game cartridge design, same controller design pretty much, but it was able to do a little bit more, and they could make it cheaper. They were smarter than Mattel and made it at a much cheaper budget. And so they were able to keep it going. And so you've got those guys keeping Intellivision's original stuff on the modern systems, and you've got ColecoVision, the flashbacks, alive, and you've got the same for Atari. But when it comes to the original systems, even though Atari was capability-wise the underdog, Atari made, I think, the better business moves than Intellivision did, and that's what caused Intellivision to fall and lose that first console war. Boom. See how I tied that in there?
Yeah. Well, reading on the what's the ColecoVision? Is that how you say that?
Yeah.
It was owned by CBS.
Oh, that's right.
That's who started.
That's right. CBS.
Interesting. So you had a toy company and a production company, two different things.
See, that's how, right there, you solved it. Okay, so Atari is a bunch of computer programming nerds who did hallucinogenic drugs in the 70s, is who created the Atari. Then you got a TV company and a toy company. Of course, they're going to win. I mean, they're the ones who started it all anyway. So, but the ColecoVision, it stood the test of time. To me, the Atari is the better system. I know that Intellivision was better as far as its capabilities, but I just had more fun with its 2600.
I think the most interesting fact out of all this is that they discontinued support, discontinued in January of 1992 for the original
Atari 20. Yeah, for the original one.
That cracks me up.
That's insane. Think about it. So 1977 to 1992. Has there ever been any other video game console that's been in that?
Any other product, period.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
15 years?
Yeah. I mean, a computer now,
doesn't...
Microsoft releases Windows 7 support expires in 3 years.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is.
Windows 8's coming out in 9 months. Yeah. Because
that's bizarre.
15 years.
15 years.
And you did, and they constantly revised the model design, but it was still the same system.
Right.
And even other companies, Sears bought, for both Intellivision and Atari, Sears bought rights to make their own version, which they didn't make it. Atari made it, or Intellivision made it, and it was just rebranded as, I think it was the Atari was the Sears Video Arcade, and then the Intellivision version was the Sears Video Arcade 2, I think. And it came packaged with like a game or two, and then they were the same games, just repackaged as a Sears console. And that was a pretty smart business move, because you don't see that today. I mean, Sony doesn't rebrand the PlayStation at all. So rebranding worked very well for them, and I really think helped keep them alive.
Yeah.
Because they were able to make them cheaper, and again, things like that. I think it's a good business move. So you had different ones that were out there. But as far as the actual finished production of the Atari VCS, or the 2600, as it ended up being called after the 5200 came out, well, they even did the 7800. Not long after that, too. 1992. And I think 92, that's when the Super Nintendo's out. You know,
Right.
you got the Genesis. You're in 32-bit and 16-bit systems, and people are still like, man, I'm rocking the Atari, you know, 'cause this is where it's at. And
Well, their parents are like, I bought that for $175. You're going to play it till it dies.
that's all there is to it. Great systems. I mean, and they really were. I mean, again, the Fairchild really started the home console, but it just couldn't compete. It was Atari who really broke through the market, created the video game market as we know today, and then the Intellivision became its first competitor. And that's something we have seen every generation since then. You've always got some big name and someone competing for who's the top dog, of that market. And for this one, I think, we're going to decide, hey, after we talk about it, who wins? I think this is a clear cut. Atari 2600.
Yeah.
I mean, Atari
I
Can't really argue it.
I never played an Intellivision. I remember playing an Atari at a buddy's house, but yeah,
I mean, the Intellivision just didn't do it.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
This is a pretty cool question. You may know the answer. All right, so the original joystick is called the CX10.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it was eventually replaced throughout, but then they come out with the CX40. Okay, it worked with the Atari 2600, but do you know there's other consoles that it worked with? Do you know
that the CX40 worked with?
Yes.
The 7800 is one of them.
Okay, maybe, I don't know.
Okay. Are you talking about other companies?
Other consoles, yes.
Oh, okay. So, now I do know Intellivision had ports on the Intellivision 2.
Okay, I don't know. It doesn't say that one.
Oh. The Aquarius had ports for other controllers by Atari.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember if it was the ColecoVision or the Commodore.
Well, there's...
have I gotten any of them yet? The Aquarius had
the
multiple
Aquarius.
ports. Okay.
But, all right, so it became the industry standard, and it will work with later systems in the Atari family, yes.
Right.
But it can also be used with two other systems specifically, and they're more modern.
Okay, so the Aquarius was one of them.
Okay, but that's not one of them. That's in the Atari family.
Aquarius was in Intellivision.
Well, I mean, as far as this time frame, this is more of a modern.
He's saying more modern.
More modern.
You can actually come
okay. Well,
closer to our time.
Okay. I thought you were talking about systems
my
at
bad.
the time.
Sorry. Yeah.
So more modern. I want to go with that controller. I'm going to go with the Sega Genesis,
Yes.
and there has to be. You said two.
Yeah. I never heard of this other one, so
Good luck.
Sega Genesis, and hold on.
well, okay, yeah.
Sega Genesis. I'm trying to think of another system that would work for. I want to. For some reason, I want to go to the Commodore 64.
No, it's another one by Sega. Now, I've never heard of this. The Sega Master System.
Okay, so hold on. So the Sega Genesis is the Sega Master System, just the 16-bit version. So it's this, yeah,
But yeah,
pretty much. So that's cool.
yeah, that's kind of cool. I didn't know that.
I never tried that. I'm gonna go find a joystick and use it just 'cause it's so. And we'll get to that in the next one. But when Sega first came out, the Master System was the 8-bit system, and then the Genesis followed as a 16-bit system. So I mean, that was their thing. And then they tried to. We'll get into that one later. But Genesis tried to do a lot of things to compete with Nintendo. That was a good idea, but failed epically for them, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But so, anyways, that was the console wars. Atari 2600 coming out on top as the winner. So, all right, coming up next is Tyler's segment for Stump the Sludge.
Yeah, Stump the Sludge, guys. So again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to send them in to us. We actually have one listener suggestion tonight for this. And also remember, Sludge has put up a SludgeCast t-shirt.
That's right.
For anyone that can stump him on anything Godzilla related. So feel free to send those in. We'd love to hear from you guys, and we would really love to stump Sludge, especially on something Godzilla related, if at all possible. All right.
Bring it out unafraid.
Yeah. All right. So keeping with the Atari, and we're also talking about Nintendo, so this kind of goes a little bit in with that. Wii Fit, of course, is more of a recent console, but Atari did a similar thing actually back in 1982. A computerized exercise device that was linked in with one of their games. What was the name of the game that Atari came out with?
I know what you're talking
that's
about.
comparable to Wii Fit.
Oh, let me think, because I know what you're talking about. I'm just can't think of the name. Dang it! See, they had to have too much stuff back then to try, educational and fitness. That was the only fitness game back then because Intellivision didn't do one of those.
Yeah, this was they're considering this the original computerized
fitness game.
exercise device that allowed people to essentially play a video game and also be active at the same time.
And I've got the name of the guy. It was a fitness trainer or something.
Designed by Tim McGinnis.
Yes, okay. I knew it. Oh, man. That's my teeth chattering because I know this. I know this. Oh, dang it. And it's not a name that would just, you would think, Tim Fit. It's just it's something
it's
really
so
off the
weird,
wall.
actually.
Oh, man. Oh, come on. This is where we need a Jeopardy time clock. Dang it. Oh, man. Okay. I'm going to take a crack at it.
Okay.
I cannot think of it. I remember him making us doing that because he designed the whole game system. But what was the name of that game? Oh. I'm going to go with...
This is hilarious.
I'm going to go with something simple. Exercise.
Exercise. It was actually called Puffer.
Puffer.
The comment says that we have seen how kids can become addicted to our video games, and we're going to hook up an exercise bike to a video game where the bike is the controller. And it was called Puffer.
Wow.
I'm wondering if that's because kids need to reach for their inhaler or something afterward.
Why would you call it Puffer?
That's what I'm saying. It was when I saw that. When I saw that, I was like, I've got to use that.
Wow, that's a picture of it. Please tell me everybody wore stuff like that when they played this video game system.
Yeah, that is awesome.
1980s spandex. Hey, look, I knew McGinnis. Does that count for something?
Yeah. I'll give you at least
I had no idea it was
bonus
called
point for that.
So, all right, kind of got it right. I mean, I knew about it, but I still got it wrong. I didn't know the name of the game.
Yeah. But, all right.
Which stinks.
Next one.
Puffer. Puffer? That sounds... It almost sounds like the first breathalyzer machine. You know what I mean? For a cop, it's like, all right, I need you to, blow in this puffer.
Into this, please.
Please puff into this. And then, kids saw their parents doing it back in the 70s. They're like, let's make a video game out of it. I don't know. So I went really off topic there.
That's all right. Ready for the next one? You need a breather or anything?
No, bring it.
Okay.
That would seem like it was actually... That was a little bit difficult.
Yeah, a little bit. All right, so Atari contracted a company called Microsoft to port the basic program language to the Atari 800. Mm-hmm. There was a young developer that was on this project that was responsible for the whole project. 1 year later, the project still isn't finished. Alan Miller comes in, fires the kid that was working on it, and finishes the program design. Who was the original programmer?
Was that Steve Jobs?
It's not Steve Jobs. You're in the same... you're in that network, but...
Was it? It wasn't Bill Gates.
It was Bill Gates. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Bill Gates. They're saying that this is very likely the only person to have ever fired Bill Gates from a job.
Wow. Okay, that's awesome. See, I didn't know that Bill Gates worked for Atari. I knew Steve did.
Well, this was when they contracted Microsoft.
Okay, contract. Okay,
yeah, they contract. So he didn't work technically for Atari. He was contracted for this job, and it took him a year, and he still hadn't finished the program.
I will count that as a full wrong.
No, you got it.
That was cool.
You got it. And I'm sure if you'd have heard me say Microsoft there, you would have known that one for sure. But yeah, Bill Gates was the one that was fired from that job.
Bill Gates.
All right. Last one. This one is listener suggested. And again, listeners, you guys can do this for anything. It does not have to be related to our topic. We will give him a little bit of an idea of what it is in reference to, and then go from there. This is going back to the Arrowverse. Okay. So we're going to Arrow. What episode did Oliver Queen's first bow break, and who broke it?
Are you serious?
Yep.
This is Caleb.
This comes from Caleb Murray right here.
Murray.
Season
right
and
here in
episode
Bristol.
number, please.
I need the time frame.
402.
Yes.
And I'll tell you,
what was the lighting?
He gave me the episode right off the bat.
That's because he's got the DVDs there at the house.
He's watching it on Netflix right now.
It's that's what he did.
He's probably fast forwarding through the episode. Which one is it again?
It's because he's got the episode number right there. Thanks, Caleb. Okay. Where the bow that he got
breaks.
from Shadow's dad.
The first bow breaks, and who broke it?
First bow breaks, who breaks it?
And I'm sure we can cut you a little bit slack if you don't know the exact episode. I mean,
That's insane. Exact episode. How many hundreds of episodes are there? Okay, so hold on. I'm playing through it in my head. He didn't get the new bow till season 2. So season 2 is when the first one broke.
Who can stump the sludge?
It was broke by Deathstroke.
such a final answer.
I don't know.
Lock it in. No, I don't know.
It's season 2 is when it's broke. I could not tell you the episode. There's no way I could tell you the exact episode, but it's season 2 because season 2 is when he gets the second bow.
I don't remember this. And I remember watching the first and second season back to back. I don't remember this. Sorry, Caleb.
It's kind of funny. I mean, he did. He texted me in this, and I was like, you're sure about this? And he's like, 99.9%, maybe. Oh yeah, wait, 100%. he's like 100%. Yeah, that's right. So he probably really was watching the episode, like making sure.
Had to have been Caleb. Ooh, wait till I see him Sunday. It's season 2. I forget the episode. I'm not even going to attempt that. And I'm going to lock it in with Deathstroke. I cannot remember exactly who did it, but I think it's Deathstroke.
Okay, from what he has submitted.
And Caleb, I will look this up.
Yeah. We will be looking it up. In fact, I'm going to see if Matt can pull it up just to verify it for us real quick. He has it as episode 22, and it was Malcolm Merrill, the Dark Archer.
What?
That's what he submitted. So we're checking it right now. We got Matt looking it up.
Oh, season 1, episode 22, Dark. Yes, that's what it is because he gets his second bow. No, episode 21.
He said 22.
Oh, 22. I was like, okay, no, it's the last episode. Yeah, because it happens before he goes and sees Tommy, before Tommy dies.
Yep.
You don't have to worry about him, Matt. He's right.
I mean, that makes sense to me.
No, he's right. He's definitely right. Yep.
Way to go, Caleb. Unfortunately, you don't get a T-shirt, but
no T-shirt,
you did
Caleb.
Stump the Sludge. So
Maybe
way to go on that.
Well, yeah. I mean, way to go. I mean, I knew season 2 he had a new bow. Didn't even think about that. Breaking that bow. I haven't watched that fight in a while. I want to go back to that.
I enjoyed that season.
That season's so good.
Yeah.
So good.
First season was great.
All right, so I lost.
You're at 50% right now.
50%.
Yeah, I mean, because you got one right tonight, and then you got 2 right last week, and then you missed 2.
I'm half. Half and half.
I mean, I'd say it's pretty good because not knowing anything
I like
besides
that Bill Gates one, though.
Yeah.
I had no idea about that. That was really cool.
Yeah.
See, I like that because I was like, man, I don't want to lose a bunch of these, but I know we'll get a bunch right. But it's like the ones I don't know, hey, I'm just going to learn that.
There you go.
Because I retain that stuff like
fun
crazy.
trivia now.
It is. All right, so thank you again, Tyler, for that, and Caleb. Thank you for submitting the first listener Stump the Sludge question and stumping me on that. You'll pay for that one. But so, hey. All right, so the next topic that we're going to move right into is the silent film era, where it all started. So, what we were talking about this. I'm kind of the lone wolf as far as the crew here, right?
Well, Tyler is the youngest one in the room.
Yeah,
Throw that in there.
Let's get that. All right, so Spider-Man 3, check. Tyler, youngest, check. We're good. We've hit it all already.
We haven't harped on the Grinch yet, so
that's to come. There we go.
Yeah,
we'll talk about how the worst silent film is better than the Grinch.
Yeah,
that'll happen.
That's a diss, Matt, right there.
It is, except for Jim Carrey's Grinch.
Just because I'm excited about the new Grinch movie.
The new Grinch movie. There's no need for
their
a new
marketing
Grinch movie.
campaign is genius. I mean,
it has to be because I've seen nothing. That's pretty smart.
That picture I posted on our Facebook page the other day. That was pretty good. That was awesome. What's he doing on summer vacation? Just walk through the beach and just mess up somebody's picnic. that is so cool. Good.
I will say we harp Matt a lot about that. I'm actually looking forward to the Grinch. But I do harp him about it because why not?
I'll probably watch it 2 years from now, maybe.
Whatever.
You know, when it's on Netflix and the kids are like, Dad, let's watch this.
Chase,
like that.
Chase, you don't know it yet, but we're getting you to that premiere that night. we're totally getting you out there.
We'll see. We'll see if that happens. So, all right. So, movies. Movies started the first. I kind of feel like I got to ask you a question now, Tyler. I'm like, all right, let's see what you know. Actually, this is for. I would love to give one to Caleb right now. No idea how much I want to stump Caleb. Call him. Let's get him on the show.
Call him on the phone?
Let's get him on the show. Yeah, right. Call him. we're going to do something live and spur of the moment. See if you can put it on speaker and up to your microphone.
Yeah.
Oh, he's mad. Sludge is upset.
Oh, Sludge is...
Sludge is so mad. All right, let's see if we can get him.
Put it up next to your microphone so we can hear him. That sounds pretty good, actually.
It does.
Surprised.
Yeah.
This boy better answer his phone.
Hey,
Hey, Caleb, what are you doing?
at home.
At home. Okay, so we just finished the Stump the Sludge section and got your question, which I got wrong, and I am not happy about it. Okay, I knew he had the new bow in the second season. I got who broke it wrong, and so Tommy Merlin. So I'm not happy about this. So now I've got to retaliate with a question for you, since you're a big Arrow fan. What was? Don't you dare Google it. If your father's there, I want him in the room watching right now. And what was the first appearance of the Green Arrow in comic books?
In the comic book.
Yes, sir. You're the Arrow fanatic.
Oh, well, you see, my problem.
No, I don't want no excuses. I gave no excuses for being wrong in your question.
Oh, I'm not giving an excuse. I'm just saying I haven't read that many Green Arrow comics.
See, this is where I redeem myself. You want to take a guess at it, Caleb?
Green Arrow 1.
That would be the
That's a great
That
guess.
is a good guess, Caleb, actually. But I mean, a lot of those comics back then, it's More Fun Comics number 43. It's actually the first appearance of Green Arrow. It's the first appearance of Aquaman and the first appearance of Speedy. A lot of the comics back in the day, Caleb, your introduction to these big heroes we have, aside from Superman and Batman, they did not appear in their first solo issue. It was actually in either an Action Comics, or it was More Fun Comics, or for like Marvel, it was Tales from Suspense and things like that. So, but hey, you gave it your all, Caleb.
Hey, I mean, at least we're even.
Well, Caleb, thanks, man, for answering the phone. We wanted to get you on the show a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
All right, man.
All right, man. We'll see you later.
All right, we'll see you.
All right, bye.
Man, so. All right, back to the silent films. Okay, so this is when it all started. I mean, and honestly, anything you go watch today, you can look at a lot of silent films and go, that's honestly where it came from. Not just for the fact of the technology, but for how they did things, the way they did special effects, or the way they edited movies, or, I mean, the pan shots started in silent films. The first twist of a movie ending was a silent film. The first time lapse, a lot of times people credit Citizen Kane, 74, 75, Citizen Kane, in the 70s, Citizen Kane came out, and they thought that is the first major time lapse film where it wasn't in a congruent timeline. It skipped back and forth. Totally wrong. The first time-lapse film was actually The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari in 1920. So, I mean, not saying that Caligari was better than Citizen Kane, because while I love Caligari, Citizen Kane's definitely a better film. Pulp Fiction the same way. Big movie, big for time-lapse. But a lot of the stuff started with the silent film era. I mean, everything. Because back then, when they first came out, there was no dialogue. The music actually wasn't even on the film. For a lot of people who may know, like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about, silent films, just had the music with it. No, it didn't have it on the actual film. There was no way to record audio onto the film itself. So when you went to the theaters back then to see a movie, Birth of a Nation or Metropolis, the music you heard was played live.
Yeah.
In the theater.
That's why, I'm sure if they could have recorded audio, they would have.
Oh, definitely.
That's why you have a silent film.
How expensive would that have been too? Because you got to pay those guys for every show,
I know,
which is crazy.
Yeah.
But so it started the first. Why can you have asked a silent film question? Yeah, I don't know about this.
Because I didn't know anything about it.
He's the youngest one in the room.
Yeah, the youngest one in the room.
Wow, thanks.
But the first credited motion picture came out in 1894. It was by the Auguste and Louise Lumiere. It's a French film. I don't know how. Couldn't even tell you how to pronounce the name of that movie. It's a long name. 1894. Trust me, Sludge knows this one. This is when it first came out. It's the first credited motion picture film. Now, there was a couple things before. There was a guy who had made technically the first motion picture capture. It was about 2 seconds of real footage of a person walking through a garden. And I think it may have even been called something like The Garden. I mean, it was literally 2 seconds, and that was it. So they didn't, credit that as the first motion picture. But this all started back in the late 1800s with Paul Roget, Roget, I think. He's the guy who stumbled on the optical illusion. If you take, a stack of pictures frame by frame and spin them really fast, or like, we've all done it. We get a stack of Polaroids or whatever, and you just flip them.
Flip through the pages.
And it looks like it's moving.
Yeah.
He discovered that. And so that was the beginning of trying to get motion capture on camera. And it went from that to he, created the little dial wheel thing that me and you, Tyler, talked about earlier, where it was a little disc that spun really fast with the light, and it had pictures around the side of it, and it looked like motion on the wall. Thomas Edison technically created the first camera, the first actual camera that could make motion pictures. It was two of them, the cinetoscope and the cinetoscope and the it was two things. Cinetoscope was one of them, and then I can't remember, the cinetograph maybe. One device took the pictures, because the problem they ran into back then was getting film that could take, a device that could take pictures quick enough, at a quick enough frame rate, and then an actual film that could be shot quickly enough. And Thomas Edison, of course, he's a genius, and he gave us so many amazing things technologically wise. He gave us the first video camera, pretty much, and then it has a separate machine that projected it. Now, when his machine was known, they used to call it the peep show machine, because, and I guess it was a bad name for a joke for obviously back then, was because only one person can view it at a time. So it was kind of like a little peephole, or that you would look at, and you could see the footage. It was the Lumières who were made the first film. They made the cinematograph or something like that. It was the first device where it's pretty much all in one. But instead of it being locked into one person viewing, that device a crowd could see. So they made the first film, and then it just went from there. The studios started popping up, and then you had all these other people making movies, and the birth of cinema was upon us at that point. And they eventually got sound in the very late 20s, early 30s, and they were called talkies, is what they called the films at that point, and it obviously ended up killing out the silent film, but we're talking about silent films in particular. With those movies, what I like about them as a fan, and I think a lot of people would enjoy if you go back and look at it, is you take into the fact that you can't talk. I mean, they can move their mouths, but no one's going to be able to hear it. There's going to be no dialogue, no actual sound effects. So they had to tell this story physically and emotionally as actors. And then, as a director, they had to really work on the special effects, the stage sets, and the actors. I mean, they had to get the actors to do so many things to portray this story to make you understand what's going on and really kind of get into the movie itself and enjoy it. Because, I'm sure the first time someone saw a motion picture, they probably didn't care what they were seeing. It was just the sheer fact that, this has never been done before, so it's really amazing. But it was a huge boom, and they came out with this, they were finally able to create a 35 millimeter film, with celluloid nitrate, which we talked before, caused a lot of theater fires, because the film itself was made with nitrate. Not only did that over time severely degrade the film, and why a lot of films have been lost over time, because it just did not hold up, but it's flammable. It's nitrate. Those movies back then had to spin at a certain speed, and with those projectors had a hot bulb. If they spun those too slow, that nitrate would get hot, burst into flames, and your theater burns down. There was kind of, no two ways around it. So it was pretty dangerous. They actually would send some movies out with instructions on, this is how fast you need to be doing. This is, because that was a safety issue, which was pretty interesting. So nowadays, you don't really have to worry about that. But it was there, in all solid films, black and white. Something some friends were talking about is, but it was when color really came out Well, color films, most people are like, oh man, the first color movie came out in the 1960s or 1950, War of the Colossal Beast. Nah, not true. First color film was actually like 1919. They were coloring films back then, but they were tinting the films is what they were doing to give them color.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So color films actually were from back in the silent era. A lot of people had no idea about that. But you've got so many movies that, to me, I'm a big silent film fanatic. My favorite movie of all time is 1923 Family Opera with Bela Lugosi. I'm sorry, no, 1925 Family Opera Bela Lugosi. 23 is when Hunchback of Notre Dame came out, and he was the Hunchback in that as well. That's the greatest movie ever for me. I mean, that's Bela Lugosi, or no, I'm sorry, not Bela Lugosi, Lon Chaney, who played the Phantom and played, Quasimodo in Hunchback of Notre Dame. He had a way of delivering his physical acting, to me, I think is better than most actors today. Especially, I always revert back to Family Opera. The last scene, where the mob chases him out, the opera house is burning down, and the mob's chased him out into the city, and they get him underneath that bridge, and they think he's this monster, that he's just this evil thing, which he's not, because, he does all this stuff for Christine Daae, that he's in love with her, and it's a love story to its heart, but, he's still this deformed thing, this deformed person. And that reveal, when she walks up to him, underneath the opera house, and he's playing that organ, and he's got the mask on. I still to this day it's amazing. And she walks up slow, and it's slow, walks up slowly behind him. And just reaches over and grabs his mask, and that just big shock of him being shocked of it, and you see his face for the first time. It's phenomenal. I still think it's one of the best film reveals ever. And he delivered so well in his face. So when you get to the end of the movie, they think they're chasing this monster. All they can think about is mob mind mentality. They're going to kill him. They think he's one thing that he really isn't. And when they get him down to the bridge, he turns, and even that moment when you've got 60 people on him with pitchforks and torches and all this stuff, he turns and throws his hands up in the air, and they all freeze in terror. That's how afraid they are. He's got nothing at all. He's running from them, and he still scares them one more time, holds his hand up, and then opens his hand, and there's nothing there, and he starts laughing, and then they kill him. And I think that's such an amazing moment, because that's really kind of you're still judging a book by its cover. That's how I always looked at it is he's not what they thought they were, but they still killed him for what they thought they were. And even in the last moment, he proved them wrong. So I love that movie. There's so much in that movie I love. The masquerade scene is phenomenal. Everything about that movie is just great. But you had so many movies back then that were just unbelievable because people went above and beyond with the technology they had. Even back then, actually, the movies when they were watching them were very high tech. Very high quality, because it was the best that was out available. Low standard compared to the day, but very high quality for then. And you just got some of the greatest films ever that came out at that time. Metropolis. Matt started watching that the other day. 1927. Phenomenal movie. Not only did it just special effects wise stuff happen in that movie that blew everybody away. I think all the best films other than Family Opera were German films. I'm thinking of Metropolis and Captain Dr. Caligari, and they're so good. But they all had a major message. Me and Tyler were talking earlier about Charlie Chaplin. It was pretty much the movies that you had seen, right?
Yeah, I grew up because my grandfather would kind of watch that kind of stuff. The Charlie Chaplin, and then we were also kind of talking about he would watch the Three Stooges when they it wasn't the silent films, but they kind of
no dialogue.
Yeah, the no dialogue type stuff.
Early Shemp.
Yeah,
Three Stooges.
Yeah, so I used to watch those kind of things with him, and just used to love those comedy sketch type things.
They were super good. Matt, did you have any experience with silent films prior to this?
I've probably seen a couple of bits and pieces of throughout the years, but because I am the oldest one in the room. Yeah. However, no, I've not really. Not that I really paid that much attention to, but like we were talking earlier, I enjoyed to see how long these movies were. As far as the length of time. Yeah. But I don't know. Do all of them? Because I only watched a couple. Do all of them put words up as they're going through the story.
For the most part, a lot do.
So, I mean, that explains a lot. You take those little screenshots out, and that's probably, I don't know, 5 to 8 seconds per one at least.
Yeah, not long.
You take that out, and you're going to take time off of the movie. But there's no other way they could tell a story without that either.
Yeah, there wasn't. I mean, you had.
I mean,
some
you
too.
could when, like in the beginning of Metropolis, when the lady comes up with all the kids, and the guy sees her, and he's like, "Whoa," and she's like, "These are your brothers," and then they make her leave, and he goes after her. It's like you could get that,
without
like,
the cards.
right?
They were called intertitles,
Right.
Yeah, that would say what's going on or put dialogue on.
Yeah.
Though I can't. The only one I can even think of off the top of my head that didn't have that, and it may have it, but I'm not recalling it, is a movie called A Trip to the Moon. It's short. It's like 15-minute movie. And it's really good. It's just about some dudes who, it's kind of weird. Like, you got a bunch of dudes who look like wizards in a room, and they're talking about a trip to going to the moon. And then people go crazy for a second. Then all of a sudden, like, they instantly change out of these wizard wardrobes into like these businessmen wardrobes. It was just an odd looking scene. Really good movie. But the science in it does not work whatsoever. So they end up shooting this rocket to the moon. And of course, a great thing, when everyone's known the picture of the little rocket stuck in the moon's eye, it's an old picture, that's from that movie. And they end up coming across aliens. And so, like, the main dude has got to get them back to the Earth. And the way he does it, they get out on the moon and they camp on the moon. You know what I mean? Like, they had no idea there was no oxygen up there, none of this stuff. But the set's great, the movie's great, but I don't think that had any title cards. They end up making it back to Earth, and, like, he ends up riding the rocket down, kind of like makes me think of Dr. Strangelove or How I Learned to Love the Bomb by Stanley Kubrick, where you got the one dude, I can't remember the character's name, is riding that atomic bomb out of that plane like a, you know what I'm talking about? You seen that? Yeah. like a rodeo bull. Yeah. Well, so this old dude does this. He drags the rocket ship off of like a cliff. What would be a cliff on the moon, which doesn't exist, but it's there in this film, and manages to. It's almost like it's coming off like if the Earth is flat theory that was actually real, but it's not. If they drop it off the edge, that's how he gets it. That propulsion supposedly is how he gets it off of the moon back to Earth, and like it falls in the ocean. And it's great because it's like an actual toy falling in the ocean. And you see like these fish, but they're actually like little tiny fish, and it's an aquarium. It was very well done, for back then. But I don't think it had any title cards. Good one. I mean, if anybody wants to get into a silent film but has the time to see some of the long ones, that's actually a really good one. It's really, really fun. They all, to me, I loved them because I really got into. They all had a message, and it wasn't something that can get muddled up, I think, like today can. But it was very clear. Like you were talking about Charlie Chaplin, Charlie's movies, playing The Tramp and whatever film it was. I love The Kid. I think The Kid is great. To me, The Kid is almost kind of like a precursor to The Pursuit of Happiness. The Kid was really good. The Tramp finds this baby, adopts him, and then it's all about the social boundaries and settings for this kid and Tramp, of who they are as hobos and how the Airbelt sees them. It's a great movie. Gold Rush with Charlie Chaplin was another one, a very good, and again, that socialist message was a lot about industrialism. So I loved his movies for that. There's so many other movies that were the same way. Metropolis especially can really go towards industrialism, capitalism, heavily on socialism. Actually, I think it really kind of warrants against socialism when we look at it, because for those who haven't seen Metropolis, you've at least seen the poster or seen something remotely close to it. You've got two different groups of people, pretty much the undergrounders and the above grounders, the rich and the poor. I mean, that's just black and white what it is. And the rich don't do anything but enjoy life and all the rich things they got and all the things that they get to enjoy, their technologies and their foods and everything. None of it happens if it wasn't for the poor who live underground. They're the ones who do all the work. They're the ones who do everything. They wouldn't have the life above. And it's really about the uprising of the poor against the rich. And because it's very much, you can look at it a lot of ways. It really pushes on how socialist economies are that way. They don't work. It's as a precursor of what will happen, industrialism, how it can control us. There's so many ways you can look at it. And that message is just right there. You know, and it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I love those movies.
It was interesting, the different themes. I mean, I just watched, I don't know, the first 30, 45 minutes or whatever it was of it. But you got biblical themes through in there.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the tower is Babel.
Right, yeah, it pretty much is.
Okay, you know, it's the tallest one in the city, you know. Even the set design was really cool. I mean, you could tell they
loved
were,
it.
you know, you could tell it was just, you know,
Fritz Lang
built
just
set, but
was,
it's cool.
I think with what Fritz Lang did with Metropolis,
Yeah.
the sets were just, I mean, the android woman. The
Right.
robot. I mean,
Yeah.
1927.
I know.
It's just unbelievable to see that because those special effects weren't even close to being touched till at least the late till at least 33 with Kong. It was phenomenal. And you've got other movies that are great. I mean, and all of them I think had an interesting story at least behind it. You look at Nosferatu. The courts ordered those copies to be destroyed. It was a complete ripoff of Bram Stoker's Dracula. F.W. Murnau, who was a great German director. He actually did a movie called The Seventh Seal, which was phenomenal. One of my favorite movies. He did Nosferatu. He wanted to do Bram Stoker's Dracula. The Stoker estates would not sell him the rights to do the movie for it. So he still made the movie for it, but he just changed the name of the characters. So instead of Count Dracula, you had Count Orlok. You know, I mean, that's just really what he did. He just, same thing, changed character names. And so when it came out, the courts ordered it. I mean, I think like 3 copies survived through the time. Now we still have it, and now everybody's got it. You know, it's on every, you know, box set you get at Walmart of, you know, 50 classic horror films or whatever. You know, I mean, so I mean, it's out there for everybody to see. Thankfully, because I think that's a very phenomenal movie for history because of, you know, I mean, yeah, it is a Dracula movie, but it's Bram Stoker and what that was in the piece of history. It had a great story because what happened on this film, I was talking to Matt about this the other day, was crazy. Max Schreck, the guy who played the Count, never showed up until it was time to shoot a scene, would only shoot at night.
It's just creepy, man.
Yeah.
Just
No one knows how he did his makeup because when you see a picture of him or see him on film, it's creepy. Like, it looks real. It looks so real. No one knows what happened. Apparently, he ate a bat on set at one night, one of the shootings. He was talking to some set people, and people were really creeped out by him. And he just reaches out. I mean, first off, if a man catches a bat mid-flight, that's crazy. And then eats it, that's just nuts. So that's creepy stuff. You know, there's a lot of stuff that happened with the director, F.W. Murnau, on set that was pretty just illicit because he was going through a lot. He was kind of the first, how do you want to say it? I'm trying to think of a good example. He was one of the first directors that I guess kind of fell into the Hollywood stardom as far as, now I got this money develops these bad habits, and his bad habit was drugs, you know, definitely, you know, especially hallucinogens. So there was a lot of interesting of what happened on that film to where you can go and look and see it today, you know, of like, oh, wow, this really started back then, which was just, you know, it was really, really cool. You look at movies like Birth of a Nation, which if anybody can watch a silent film, it's the longest I know of. It's like 3 hours and 15 minutes, Birth of a Nation is. But I think it's not my favorite silent film, but overall, it's the greatest silent film there is, and maybe arguably one of the greatest films of all time. Came out in 1915. And it's about 2 families, the Stonemans and then the Colemans. One family is, I think it's the Stonemans, maybe. They're from the north, and then the Colemans are from the south. And this takes place during the Civil War. So you've got 2 parts. They had to do it in 2 parts. The first part was filmed or takes place during the end of the Civil War, and the second part takes place during the Reconstruction and that whole era. And it was an unbelievable movie. What they go through. Eventually, the families end up kind of getting together, breaking down a lot of barriers socially, what was going on at the time, and kind of bringing the sides together because they end up, you know, a couple of them get married together. But you had, at the time, there was something called blackface back then, where at the time, African Americans were not allowed to be on film. They weren't going to because of just this issues we had back then. So this movie started this. White male actors would play black male characters, and they would have makeup over them, and it would be called blackface, almost like to make them look like they were an African American. and they were depicted very bad in the movie, very, very bad, to the point to where there was riots in Boston when this movie came out because of it. It broke every ground you could possibly think of happening at the time, because it just showed America for what it was at the time, but how it could be fixed, eventually by the end of the movie. Unbelievable film. So silent films are just, to me, they're some of the best ever. You look at Captain Dr. Caligari, another one I think everyone should watch. Tim Burton, I swear I think Tim Burton gets all of his ideas from this movie, because the sets alone are phenomenal. That was the first movie where I talked about a minute ago that had the first plot twist. For those who haven't seen the Captain Dr. Caligari, you got a character, I think his name's Francis. He meets this dude, and pretty much it's about this doctor named Caligari who has got this sleepwalking serial killer pretty much named Caesar. The dude's been in a coma for 23 years. Caligari can kind of control him, and he wakes him to do his bidding to go kill this person or that person, and Francis is caught on, and he traces him down, and it got crazy. I remember one scene in that movie where they show Dr. Caligari losing his mind, and he's running through like this forest set, and like words are popping up, Dr. Caligari, this, and all these crazy things, and he would run to these phrases, and as soon as he'd get to him on the set, they'd disappear. So really cool special effects for back then, the way they showed it. But I mean, it ended up being the coolest. You had two plot twists. Caligari ended up being the director for a mental asylum ward, and then the next thing that happens is Francis ends up being a patient, and it's all in his mind. Everything that just happens, you have no idea if Dr. Caligari really controlled Caesar to kill these people, or if Francis was just crazy and imagine every bit of it. It is a really good film, and the sets were phenomenal. I can go on and on about silent films. I love them. I mean, there's some of the best movies that I think that if anybody who's a film fan of any sorts, going back to the roots, even like with music, I think about, today Aretha Franklin passed away.
Yeah.
Which is, for musicians, we're all musicians here.
Yeah.
That was huge. That's the queen of soul, man.
Yes.
Respect was just, she has so many good hits, but it makes you go back and think. I saw that hit the news today, and of course, I was heartbroken by it, because was a phenomenal woman socially and just things that she did, but so much for music. But it really makes me go back and think. It's like, I'm a metal fanatic. I love metal music, but I know I would not have metal music if it wasn't for somebody prior. If it wasn't for the Beatles, we wouldn't have the Beatles. If it wasn't for Elvis, we wouldn't have Elvis. Appreciating and knowing the origins and roots of what you enjoy, I think, is key for anybody. So as a film fanatic, or just anybody who enjoys a movie, period, sitting back and seeing where it comes from, it's quite amazing, because I know for kids, I would think we'd go back and watch it and be like, oh, this is terrible. But for an adult to go back and say, let me check one out. Let me see what this is like. And there's a lot that's just phenomenal in most of those films. I can't really think of many that were ever bad, actually.
Yeah, I could just, you say that, I could just imagine one of my daughters coming downstairs last night while I was watching this and just be like, Daddy, what are you watching? I'd be like, oh, it's just a movie. And they'd be like, they're not saying anything. I could just hear them say that and be like, I'm going to bed.
Exactly.
Just turn around and walk away.
So anyways, so that's silent films. 1894, first movies when it first came out. Tons of great movies that to me stand the test of time. There's so many movies that come out every day that just, I think, don't even compare. Especially, if I could pick, being the silent film guy here, to especially see the most, if I could pick 5 movies, silent film movies, that I think everyone should watch, not just because of how much they are a staple in the industry, but their messages as well. Phantom of the Opera, number 1. That's my favorite movie. I love that movie. For anybody who ever, it's just got a great message. Phantom of the Opera, Metropolis, Birth of a Nation, Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and I would have a hard time going between The Kid and Gold Rush. Those are 2 really good movies. I think they're both comedies. All this stuff is comedy, but I think emotionally at heart, The Kid's probably a more somber film, because it really gets you in points. But Gold Rush was really good too. So I would go with The Kid. So those are great movies. There's tons of other ones too. Family Opera, Birth of a Nation, Metropolis, Captain Dr. Caligari, and The Kid have to sees. I mean, they're phenomenal movies. Actually, Gold Rush, even though I picked Kid over Gold Rush in the 50s was deemed the second greatest film of all time. I mean, period. You know, I mean, and it's a really good movie. And then you got other ones. I mean, C.B. DeMille's Ten Commandments. A lot of people are like, oh, man, you know, Charlton Heston. That wasn't the first. The first Ten Commandments came out like 1924 or something. I can't remember exactly. You got The Lost World. The Lost World came out 1924. I know for a fact on that one. When people first saw that movie, of course, that's the beginning of Willis O'Brien, who brought us King Kong and all the other stop motion effects. When people first saw Lost World, they thought they were seeing real life dinosaurs on the screen. You know, and so that was groundbreaking. There's so many good movies back then that's just unbelievable watches. I mean, Hunchback for Notre Dame. I mean, that's a great story anyways. And again, not Bela Lugosi, dang it, Lon Chaney Sr., he was a phenomenal actor. Another neat, cool note about Lon Chaney is when you see him in Hunchback of Notre Dame and in Phantom of the Opera, and he actually, in most films he's done, he did his own makeup. So when you see the design and the makeup for him in the Phantom, he did it all himself. Wow. He found ways to pull his cheeks back or things like that to make him look that way. The Hunchback of Notre Dame, he made the hump. He did all the effects on his face, everything. The dude was just, he knew how to, he really got into the role. I would almost consider Lon Chaney as the first true character actor. You know what I mean? To guys like, you know, Heath Ledger, Jared Leto, you know, Lon Chaney definitely to me would be the first one who just, I mean, he knew the role he wanted and he did whatever it took to become that role. So, yeah. Good movies. I recommend anybody's listening, give it a shot. If you can't, I mean, some of them are long. Metropolis.
Yeah,
2 hours long. Birth of a Nation.
2.5 hours? Man.
3 hours long. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, if I could think of one movie that's 3 hours long that I would watch before Birth of the Nation is Seven Samurai, because that's just that's unbelievable. But it's good. It's good. So anyway, that was top 2 of the Soft Film area. Hopefully you guys got some good information out of that. I know this episode there was a lot of Tyler said something about it earlier. I'm learning a lot.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm learning. I mean, probably more than our listeners are. I mean, I'm really going through and learning a lot through these episodes as well. I'm loving it.
So I mean, it's things that I love and enjoy. We all enjoy video games. We all enjoy movies, and I mean, for everybody who's a movie fan out there, you got to start at the originals. You got to. So hopefully you enjoyed learning about them. I mean, I could probably have told you a lot more, honestly, about something else, but I was trying to cut it back the best I could. So, all right, well, before we send out of here, we have got Q&A with Matt.
Yeah, hey, guys. We got a couple questions here. One from Facebook, and I guess the other one sent right to Chase.
Right to me.
Which is fine. But, yeah, you can post any questions on our Facebook page, SludgeCast, and we will try to answer them best we can. All right, the first question is from Pete. Who had the worst controller, Intellivision or ColecoVision?
We were talking about this, Pete, before the show. How do we answer this? Because they're so close.
Can we just say yes?
Yes. Yes, they both had... Again, we didn't play the Intellivision, Pete. None of us here did.
Yeah.
Maybe Matt's played the ColecoVision, right? Have you played it? Okay, no. So I'm the only one that's played anything of those. So my only experience is with the ColecoVision controller. I despise that controller. I think that's the worst made controller ever. Then I look at it compared to the Intellivision. Again, they are so similar. Keypads, the scroll wheel, 270 degrees. I'm going to go with the ColecoVision controller was better because it looked smoother.
Just by the pictures, that's what I would choose.
Yeah, I have to go out the pictures, Pete. I mean,
yeah, I mean, same thing.
Either one of them looks like a phone.
It does.
It's got the braided cord near the, I don't know what you call these, and they come off the console.
Oh man, they're rough.
Hello, can I help you? Numbers on it.
Yeah, that's what I thought when I first got. I was like, this game's got a phone. Like I could talk into it. This is cool. Which technically the Intellivision actually had plans for that and released something for it, but getting bombed. For that one, yeah, I'm gonna have to go with the ColecoVision because it's only one of the two I used. Still hate both controllers, or at least hate the ColecoVision controller. But it was smooth. I'll say that much. And in comparison to looking at the Intellivision, it definitely looks smoother than the Intellivision. So, ColecoVision it is.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Question 2 is from Ruben. This is going back to Console Wars, which is saying, what could Intellivision done differently that would have allowed them to win the war? In my opinion, their games were of higher quality, such as Pac-Man.
Well, actually, yeah, because Mrs. Pac-Man was on the Intellivision, and it looked almost identical to the arcade version. And then Atari had Pac-Man,
Yeah.
but it did not look nowhere near close. If I sum it up, and you guys might have some other ideas too, better business decisions. Honestly, I think they kind of really shot for the moon. And no, I mean shot for the edge of the universe and didn't even make it to the moon. I think they ultimately made very bad business decisions with hiring the large amount of employees they had, thinking for sure, oh man, we're going to take Atari down. We're going to be selling millions of different types of games. They really overhired, and then they spent too much making their system, and they promised too many things. So I think their ultimate fail was bad business decisions.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the same thing, but also, I mean, like you were talking about, they almost seemed to follow the same line that Atari did. It was like they were always following after them, and even when Atari made the falls and the mess ups, it was like Intellivision was like, oh, we got to fall too, like. Learn from those mistakes. Don't do the same thing Atari did. Yeah, like if Atari messes up, maybe don't go that route.
Right.
It all goes back to those business decisions and making the best possible there. But if you're gonna be following after a competitor like that, make sure when they fall, you don't fall too. You know, try and
learn from the mistakes.
Use their mistakes and learn from that instead of letting it damage you as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's all we got.
That's it. All right, 2 questions, and Ruben, there's your answer, man. Better business decisions. I mean, they should have learned from Atari's mistakes. They should have not have shot for goals that they truly could not aspire to. So, I mean, the ideas were great. I'll give them that, but it was too much.
Yeah.
Why they never even went overseas for production is beyond me, because that would have saved them so much money. But
yeah,
there it is. So
yeah, you want to talk? There's a question on here.
On where?
From Pete on Facebook.
Okay.
From our last episode.
Do we miss one?
No. He added it on. I guess probably later after we're done.
Okay.
But we all may be able to chime in on this one. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. And Pete seems to be a good listener. Thank you, Pete, so much for interacting with us.
And you, I guess you may have. Yeah, you answered this sort of, and he said, "No wait, do it on the recording."
Okay. We did.
But this is a good one. It's a good question. This is going back to the. DC Universe on television's Arrow. It says, does anyone else think that Arrow is nothing but a serial killer that justifies his murderous rampage under the guise of justice?
Of justice. I remember him asking that question.
Yeah, it's a good question.
I'll let one of you guys answer that one first.
I mean, you could say the same thing about Batman.
But Batman never kills anybody.
No, he doesn't. Or that you see.
That you see, unless you watch the Bat Ubers on YouTube, you just let that kid and his parents go off to.
I mean, I don't necessarily look at it that way. I guess because when he kills people, I mean that's murder. If you're living by the Bible, that's murder.
Period.
But that's a tough question.
I'm kind of torn on that one because I mean, he's killing people, but at the same time, I mean, not justifying. It's okay to kill people just because they're bad.
Tyler said it was okay.
No, but yeah, get me in trouble. I mean, but like going back to if somebody's doing something wrong and they're breaking the law, even in real life, if they're not going to listen to those who are in authority and things like that, such as police or whoever it may be, when people are causing harm and they're not stopping people, a good guy's going to pull out a gun and he's going to shoot you.
Yeah,
I mean that's just how it is. I mean, it's not just police. I mean, we see it a lot of times. I know there's the big gun debate. Not even going to get into that.
Oh no,
but
we keep those off.
Yeah. But I mean, even when you have a bad guy going into a place and there's a good guy with a gun, that good guy is going to do what he can to stop the bad guy.
Yeah.
And even if that means he's got to fire a couple shots and potentially kill that guy, does that necessarily make him a bad guy? No. And in that case, it makes him a hero. Right. He saved other people from potential damage. So for me, that's what I kind of feel like with Oliver Queen.
When you look at it, Pete, did he say Arrowverse?
No, he's just saying that
Just
Arrow.
Arrow, okay.
And I'm just assuming that he means the TV show since he said Arrow, not Green Arrow. Or...
When you look at it, to me, this is how I look at it. If you go in the aspect of Arrow versus especially that first season, there was no question he was going to kill that person.
Oh, yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
I mean, so do I see him doing that as in a serial killer because he enjoys it? A serial killer would enjoy it? No. His whole deal was, I made a promise to clean up the city to my father. I've got to take him out. Police aren't doing justice. I'm willing to cross the line, do what it takes. On the flip side, you bring in somebody from Marvel, you look at Punisher, does the same thing. I think Punisher severely enjoys it.
Yeah.
He loves killing the criminal, where I think Arrow does it because he feels it's necessary.
Yeah.
So I don't know that he crosses that line of serial killer like the Punisher would, I think, definitely. But I'm going to have to go, no, I don't see him as a serial. I see him being the one that's willing to do whatever it takes. If killing this criminal saves this many lives, I will do it. And I think that, to me, that's different than a serial killer. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where the Punisher was like, you know what I mean? Because Arrow wouldn't kill all of them, but he would definitely kill key ones that he knew he needed to.
Yeah.
Where, again, using the Punisher example, he just wipes them all out, period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah. Yeah, for Arrow, it's like the end justifies the means for him. Like, he's doing it to, prevent things.
So,
yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Pete, good question. I like when Pete leaves questions.
Yeah, that's a cool question.
Because they're difficult, just like the television and ColecoVision controller. Like, how do you answer something that's identical to each other? But So all right, guys. Well, thank you again so much. We've enjoyed this episode with you again. Hope you learned a lot about movies. We love movies, and hope you guys still enjoy the Stump the Sludge. We will continue Console Wars next month. I do know our first episode, we are gearing towards a Disney episode, so we have gotten some people that are dying to join us for the show for Disney, so we promise them we'll get them on. Of course, we're all Disney fans here. We've got Christopher Robin just came out as well, so we'll be hitting that, and we may do it on that episode, or we may wait till the second episode, because our second episode we've got something in surprise, a big surprise for you guys, hopefully. But we'll continue Console Wars next month with the Nintendo Entertainment System versus the Sega Master System, which is going to be a fun one. So again, thank you guys so much. We thank you from the bottom of the hearts for taking the time. I mean, we do enjoy this. We love doing this. We love just spending the time together as friends and hanging out, but we are so appreciative of the fact that you take the time to listen and join in with us. So again, thank you so much. This is Sludge.
This is Tyler.
It's Matt.
Signing out.
You're hit. You're bleeding, man.
I ain't got time to bleed.
I'm invincible!
Ready, Jack? I was born